I enjoy the training of it because it often means you get to go to nice countries. I'm a pressure cyclist. I can't bike pack. I need pressure kit every day and I need a nice place to sleep. I'm not roughing it in a tent. I was going to say you've got my best angle. I really don't think you have, but we'll go with it. I'm not sure I'm designed to be an oil portrait. Your agreed plan can change, and what I can think is a good idea in the moment, your teammate might go, I'm not sure about that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to tell you your tactics because you never know who's going to be watching. And also, if it then changes, I don't want to look like a right idiot. Everyone's sat there like, you said you were going to do this, and then you've done this.
So Neah, thanks for joining us this morning, and tell us, where are you in the world?
Hello, yes, I'm currently in Manchester, and I'm actually departing for Newport, the holding camp, in a couple of hours.
Lovely. Well, look, thanks for giving us a bit of your precious time, and we've not managed to actually pin you down in person. It's been a busy few weeks. Just talk us through where you've been and what you've been up to.
Yeah, so where was I? I was in Andorra for an altitude camp, which was pretty good fun. And then I came straight back from there and went straight to Loughborough to go and stay in a hypoxic hotel. And that meant we could do a bit of kind of track training, but also keep some of the hypoxia stimulus going. So yes, been living on the road a little bit.
Nice. And you're obviously a big fan of altitude training then.
Yeah. Well, no, I do like it. I think it's quite difficult to quantify how beneficial it is, but it's something that I've kind of done previously and I've liked. And, it's a new thing that we've done in the build up for Paris. We didn't do any altitude in the build up for Tokyo. So yet to see if it's actually going to be the right stimulus. But I enjoy the training of it because it often means you get to go to nice countries.
Nice. And yeah, Andorra, from what I've seen, is quite picturesque, but I've heard it's like breathing through a straw.
Yeah, I didn't find the altitude too bad. The biggest thing with Andorra is, you're right, it's so picturesque, like so beautiful. Every 2 minutes you're like, Instagram worthy, picture that. But it's also very steep. The flattest road is actually going through a tunnel, a 3 kilometer long tunnel, and that is considered flat, and even that is actually ever so slightly uphill or downhill. So I was doing one of my sessions was actually ripped through the tunnel because I wanted a flat road. And yeah, it's an amazing place to train, but it's pretty steep.
So which is preferable then, riding around in the velodrome or just riding up and down in a tunnel?
The velodrome is probably a little bit more fun because you don't have cars overtaking you. But it's oddly mesmerizing. It's like the most rubbish roller coaster theme park ever, because obviously the lights slowly flash kind of past you as you're going through the tunnel. And then the reps I was doing, I was finishing literally just as you could see the light at the end of the tunnel, like just as you went around the slight bend, you could start to see the light, and that tended to be when my rep was finishing. So in my head, I was like, don't go to the light. No, I think being a track rider made it bearable. But I think a lot of road riders were like, why would you do that? I'm like, it's fine.
Yeah, there's a nice metaphor in there as well somewhere, isn't there, in terms of that light at the end of the tunnel. And I suppose that's kind of where we are. We're less than 2 weeks to go till race day at the Olympics. And where are you at?
It's still, I think it's all of a sudden become real because I've been away. Like, I missed kitting out. I missed a lot of the kind of media hype, which I kind of enjoyed because it meant I was just 100% focused on my training, no distractions. But I obviously got bags and bags of kit at the weekend. Haven't really packed through it, if I'm honest. But it's suddenly become real because it's like we're going to holding camp, we've transitioned into Olympic kit, and it's like everything's starting to kind of fall into place. It's still, from an athlete's point of view, a little bit nerve-wracking because it's far enough out that this training you do can make a positive impact, but also it's such a fine line between now, as you get excited, you want to do more, you want to like test where you're at, and actually you're starting to layer things back. So it's that super fine balance of just getting just trying to nail the build up. and you're aware that things can go wrong and you can get last minute curveballs, but you're just kind of going, everything's all right, everything's fine.
Yeah.
Watch every step that you walk out through. But yeah, it's good, but it's also going back. It's 2 weeks. It's still too early to get the real hype and buzz. But I think because all of a sudden everyone's gone, like the opening ceremony's coming up, everyone around you suddenly getting this kind of hype and build. And you're going, just relax. I've still got time. I don't need this hype just yet. So yeah, it's a kind of weird kind of phase of wanting to be excited, but also going, no, it's still too soon.
Yeah, you got to keep a lid on it a little bit. Absolutely. And do you have a kind of key session that you know, okay, I'm going to do that session a week out, and that's going to tell me or give me confidence, tell me where I'm at? Are you one of those people, or are you a bit more relaxed?
So I used to have a key session that I like to do, and it would give me confidence, but I'm not doing it this year. So I'm telling myself that it's absolutely fine, and I don't need that key session because it's not happening. I've just had a slightly different build to what I've done previously. I had a little bit of illness coming, well, through Canada Nations Cup, and it just meant that my whole kind of plan had to get adjusted quite radically. And I thought I'm back on track, and now I believe, touch wood, in a really good place. It's just meant that we've adapted what I would potentially default back to. And I'm telling myself that this could be even better. So hopefully, fingers crossed.
Absolutely. And there's nothing like a bit of pressure than being the cover girl on our Scottish cycling newspaper that we've done just for Paris, for the Olympics and Paralympics. So make sure you get a copy of that. But what's your take on you inside the Mona Lisa?
I mean, I was going to say you've got my best angle. I really don't think you have, but we'll go with it. I'm not sure I'm designed to be an oil portrait, but yeah. Maybe next time put an aero helmet on, and then it'll be fine.
Then it'll all be good. Absolutely. And just getting into that kind of Paris spirit. I know you're still a few days from heading out there, but might not be pre-race, you might not be allowed, but post-race you go into that Parisian coffee shop. What's your order? What are you eating and drinking?
So I wouldn't say I'm a coffee snob, but also I do quite like a nice coffee. So I will actually assess to make sure that it looks all right. Because if it looks a bit of a ropey coffee, then I'll change it. But it tends to be like a Cortado or a flat white. And if the barista doesn't look very good, then we'll go an Americano because that's harder to mess up.
Nice. And what's your accompaniment? Are you pastries, cookies, cakes?
I'd probably go pastry as soon as as soon as we're in France. It needs to be like a kind of croissant of some description, maybe like an almond one or something. Again, have a good look and see what's in the counter. You want that fine balance of something that looks fresh, and hasn't been sat there for ages. It's assess
Nice.
in the moment.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, it's a shame if we weren't doing this virtually, I would have offered you a pastry like I did with some of the others. But you'll have to just wait till you're out there and get the real thing in France. That'll be it. So I'm gonna hit you with a few quick fire questions, just to mix things up a little bit. This one's maybe not so quick. You might have to give this a bit of thought. But you're back in Scotland post games. What's the one ride, your favourite ride in Scotland that you'd like to do?
So the favourite ride that I've actually kind of done before, there's a loop near my parents that I really like, and it comes up from kind of Dufftown and drops into Riney, and it's just empty. It's a bit of a kind of no man's land, and I really like it. The ride I actually really want to do is I want to do the North Coast 500 at some point. I just haven't figured out when. And I was kind of joking to one of my family members about it. And so my brother does a little bit of bike packing, and it's like cycle around kind of Europe and stuff. And I was like, oh, I kind of fancy the North Coast 500. He's like, yeah, it won't take you long. And I was like, yeah, but I'm a precious cyclist. I can't bike pack. I need fresh kit every day, and I need a nice place to sleep. I'm not roughing it in a tent. So yeah, that one's going to take a bit more planning, but at some point I'd quite like to do that.
Nice. That sounds cool. And it's just a bit of a spoiler, but Jenny Hall said she wanted to do the jog route, and we're kind of winding her up saying, oh, you're going to go for the record. And so maybe we have to try and get you to do the same, go for that North Coast 500 record. What do you think about that?
I mean, if you're offering to be the support car, absolutely down with it.
No promises on that one. So go on then. You mentioned your family. We're going to take a little segue. It's a classic like elite cyclist thing that you said he did a little bit of bike packing in Europe. That probably means he's ridden around the whole of Europe on his bike carrying all his kit. But your family rode a little bit when you were younger, but you weren't. You obviously, most people know you weren't a cyclist as a kid, were you?
No, not at all. So yeah, growing up, I mean, as a very young kid, I rode a bike, inherited off. I've got two older brothers, so inherited off them. But it was like the classic kind of, I was going to say playground cycling. I didn't go for bike rides. But my dad's always been a cyclist, like really good kind of club level cyclist, and my brothers would go cycling with him, and I would go horse riding with my mum. I had absolutely zero interest in cycling whatsoever. And I even remember going to horse competitions and my dad would say cycle there or drive us there and then like cycle back or whatever. And I just always remember being like, yeah, I don't get it. Like, I get that you really enjoy it and you've had a great time, but no, not for me, thanks.
And here we are, 20 years later.
Not even 20 years, but yeah.
Very much a cyclist.
Yes, very much a cyclist. It's like, yeah, famous last words.
Mm-hmm. And we talked about this, and there's a little bit on this in our little newspaper article, but you've obviously come off a horse once or twice, and the same's to be said for coming off a bike. So which hurts more? Which crash hurts more?
They are different. Unfortunately, yeah, I have had experience of both. I think, like anything, you can have lucky falls off a horse and they're not too painful, and you can have lucky crashes on the bike, and again, they're not too painful. On the velodrome, it tends to be a lot of burn, so that in the moment isn't too bad often, but the next day or so it gets really pretty icky, and then you're sticking to bed sheets and it's not much fun. Whereas with the horses it's more kind of impact, so it's like big bruises, hematomas. So yeah, neither would be recommended. But yeah,
try and avoid both.
Yes.
Indeed. So going back to some of these quick fire questions that I mentioned, who was your sporting idol growing up? I'm going to guess it wasn't a cyclist.
No, so I didn't really have a particularly like icon that I was like aspired to be. I think probably sounds really cliche that my mum, to a certain degree, purely because of what she had achieved, and yet she was so, I was going to say, humble about it. You know, she'd been to the Olympics, she'd been to world championships in multiple different sports. It's been hugely successful. She's still got records in the hill running calendar. And yet she was such a, I mean, obviously she's mum, but she's such a normal person. And it was quite funny. I remember the first time I went to a hill race and she'd been kind of out of the scene for a while and then kind of came back in. And I knew that she'd been good, but I hadn't, she was just mum. And then all these people were like, oh, Raj, you're back. Oh, brilliant. It's been, and I was like, oh, you're a bit of a hero at this. And it was like, oh, fair play. So yeah, I think, yeah, she's always just been, I think, one of these people that it's not that she's taken it for granted, but it's like it's part of your life and you don't have to brag about it, but she's so much success and you kind of think that's, it's quite aspirational actually.
Absolutely. And it's probably fair to say you've at least kind of got on terms with her in terms of achievements. You're on your way to your second Olympics. You're a two-time world champion. Do you hold the bragging rights now, or do you share them?
I would say we share them. And she should give me the credit, but then that's such a mother thing to do. I think, yeah, it's if you look at out and out results, then yeah, I have got better results, but it's also kind of going, I've had a lot of support with Scottish cycling, British cycling, and been, very privileged in the position that I'm in, whereas I hear some of the stories and some of the things that she kind of did, and you think, oh, fair play, to achieve what you did with so little support is like a real credit. And I think the other thing for her, it's like, I've been 100% focused on the cycling, that is my target. She was cross country skiing and then doing orienteering on the side and hill running and gallivanting all over the place, and you think, well, what could you have actually achieved if you just really focused on one thing? So yeah, we're kind of similar but differences.
Nice. And I touched on those 2 world titles. Obviously the Madison in Glasgow was a pretty epic race, pretty epic result, and you can see from the smile on your face even now what it meant. But I just want to know, in that whirlwind of a Madison, for someone who's never experienced it or maybe never even watched one, just describe what it's like.
Organized chaos and sometimes a bit disorganized. It's such a bizarre event because going into it, you've got a strategy, you've got a plan, and yet within 2 minutes, plan could be completely out the window. Unfortunately, there often tends to be quite a lot of crashes. So even when you're the resting rider, you still have to be very careful of where you're going, of other people. Within the Madison, there's principles that we tend to try and stick to. And yet there's certain teams that don't really have the skill set that, they're in places of the track that they really shouldn't be, which then makes it quite difficult. So you need eyes in the back of your head. And there's a huge cognitive load because you're obviously physically absolutely on the limit, and then you've still got to use your brain, you've still got to be calculating, you've got to process what other teams are doing, and it's such a fast-paced, ever-evolving event that it is really difficult. And in the moment, you're so completely focused that you're not aware of a lot of the surroundings, but also everything, which sounds a bit contrary, but it's really intense. And then you come off and there's this physical relief because you're knackered, and then also mentally you're just like, oh, that was hard. Which is every track discipline is slightly different, but I think the Madison's the most demanding, just because you've got so many different elements to it, and it can be quite frustrating because things can happen that are completely out with your control, and then other time, and so you really need the luck on the day for a good Madison.
Yeah, and you could argue, I suppose, it's the most complete track event in that you need the bunch skills, you need the tactical awareness, you need luck, you need to be physically good, you still need those aero elements to attack. Like, there's so many factors, isn't there?
It brings everything together, and it's also a team event. Like, you have to be on the same page as your teammate, they have to be going well. It's hard enough to be you focus on you and being in the best place you can physically on that day, but you also need your teammate to have bought the same. And even like with the tactics, you need to have the right tactics for that race, but also the right tactics that your teammate agrees with. So it's like, as you can imagine, as the race unfolds, your agreed plan can change, and what I can think is a good idea in the moment, your teammate might go, I'm not sure about that, and you've got to be able to be so adaptable. It's quite a challenge.
And we're all obviously going to be rooted to the TV, cheering you on for that event. But for those who don't know her, just describe your partner who you're going to be doing it with.
So I'm going to be racing with Eleanor again. So we did Glasgow Worlds, and obviously that one went pretty well. It's kind of funny because for that hadn't been our original plan to race together, and then for various reasons, can't even remember, like a couple of weeks out, it became apparent that the pair of us were going to be racing. So it was like a bit of a right, let's just wing it to a certain degree. Obviously there was quite a lot of training and structure behind it, but we didn't have so much time to prep. So this time, obviously, we've had a bit longer to prep, and we've got that race under our belt, so we're kind of trying to learn from that and work out each other's kind of strengths and weaknesses and how we can kind of adapt. So she's obviously done quite a lot on the road recently, so she's got a lot of kind of base fitness, which is really, really good. And yeah, I mean, I'm not going to tell you the tactics because you never know who's going to be watching. And also, if it then changes, I don't want to look like a right idiot. Everyone's sat there like, you said you were going to do this, and then you've done this. But I think we complement each other, and our kind of physical attributes work together really well. So it's quite exciting to see, to see how it goes. But obviously, the pressure is on. Although we won't be racing in the rainbow bands, everyone knows we're world champion. So you always find that people just a little bit keener to follow you and just wait and let you make the move or close gaps and stuff. So yeah, it could be a good race.
Absolutely. Going back to these quick fire questions again, I'm going to ask you a couple more and then I'm going to let you go and get on the way to Newport. What's your biggest fear? It's going to be cycling or just in life.
I mean, I don't know. I don't tend to focus on my fears. Biggest fear. I guess not being able to do what I do enjoy. So I guess, going to the kind of cycling background, if you end up with an injury that prevents you from being able to ride your bike, I think that would be quite a big fear. I don't want to go too morbid.
That makes sense. And what about
global warming? We'll go something big.
and what about your biggest motivator?
Honestly, I don't know. I just really enjoy it. I think I'm pretty privileged because I have had, I'm going to say, a proper job. I understand what it's like to have that. And I did love being a vet. I really did. But also, being an athlete is such a great lifestyle. It's not for everybody, but it's something that I really do love. And I think when I'm having days, which don't come very often, but it's, I don't know, middle of winter and you're meant to be going out on the bike for like 5 hours and piss and rain outside. And I think, well, I could be going to a proper job, and I kind of think, well, 5 hours in the rain ain't so bad. So I think I have the ability to kind of rationalize and kind of reason through things. And ultimately, I do it because I love it rather than because I need a job or because I don't have anything better to do. So for me, it's very easy to get motivated and just crack on.
Absolutely. And what's your best sporting memory then?
I mean, winning the Madison in Glasgow was pretty surreal. I think, anyone winning a world championship, it's very, very, very special. But then to win it in Glasgow when it's, the velodrome that I learned to ride on and, a lot of kind of nostalgia from that point of view, it is pretty special. And I think because the race itself was fairly dramatic, it wasn't just like we were in the lead and then it was really consistent. Okay, we were in the lead for quite a lot of it, but it's like I had that bunny hop over the crash. The race got restarted where we basically were a lap away from winning, and then like, no, we're going to restart it. And then we started getting rolled in the sprint, and it's just like, oh my days, such stress levels. So I think there was a huge sense of relief when it actually all just like finished. And we're like, okay, we have done it. So yeah, that was pretty special.
Absolutely. And final one, definitely post-race, not pre-race. But are we going snails or frogs' legs?
Neither, because I'm vegetarian, so it's absolutely fine. All animals will be safe.
Oh, what a cop out to finish off. Love it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just be on the champagne. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Well, we look forward to seeing that. And no, look, seriously, thanks for taking the time out of your schedule to chat to us. It's been great to get a bit of an insight into where you're at. And yeah, it's safe to say everyone back home will be rooting for you in a couple of weeks' time.
Hopefully they'll have something good to cheer about as well.
Sure they will. Thanks a lot, Neah.
Not a problem. See you later.